Hi, so the scenario for my relational advice vlog is from a conflict that I had with myself and my three roommates. It stemmed honestly from just a stupid time of canceling plans, and I think the broader issue was like a lack of trust and a lack of open communication and understanding each other's emotions and not sympathizing with each other and not actually listening to each other. So, I think that there's a lot of advice I could give for someone going through something similar or having the same issues with like you feeling like people are not listening to what you're saying and not taking accountability and not really caring about your emotions. So, the main pieces of advice that I would give for a scenario like this would be to know what active listening is and what it can do for a friendship, what empathy can do for the development of intimate friendships and relationships, and then also the importance of intimacy and in relationships and respecting emotional boundaries and realizing what other people's are and yours. So the first piece of advice, which I feel like is probably the most important in all relationships, no matter if it's friendships, partner, family, etc., and especially in conflict, is active listening. So from an excerpt from Communicating in Business Today, an article titled Active Listening by Carl R. Rogers and Richard E. Farson. They say, quote, active listening is an important way to bring about changes in people. Despite the popular notion that listening is a passive approach, clinical and research evidence clearly shows that sensitive listening is the most effective agent for individual personality change and group development. When people are listened to sensitively, they tend to listen to themselves with more care and to make clear exactly what they are feeling and thinking. Group members tend to listen more to each other, to become less argumentative, more ready to incorporate others' points of views. And then they also go on to say, quote, just what does active listening entail then? Basically, it requires that we get inside the speaker, that we grasp from his point of view just what he or her is communicating to us. More than that, we must convey to the speaker that we are seeing things from his or her point of view. To listen actively then means that there are several things we must do, end quote. They go on to list that we need to listen for total meaning, and the feeling or attitude underlying the context of the message, respond to feelings that they are feeling, the other person, and note all verbal and nonverbal cues. So I think active listening would have really benefited in the conflicts that I had, because when we were in the conflict, no one was listening to each other. No one was actually like really taking into account what any other person was saying, because we were just so focused on our own ideas and trying to get our points across. But if we actively listened to what someone else was saying and not just hearing them, we could have processed the information, responded to their feelings that they were showing, picked up on their nonverbal emotions, because some people aren't good at expressing verbal messages emotionally, and we could have thought before we spoke, and that would have been the most important way to effectively fix the conflict and maybe make it go smoother and faster and really just empathize with each other. So that leads me to my next piece of advice, which would be understanding empathy and how important it is in friendships. So from the Journal of Adolescence, in an article titled The Mediating Role of Interpersonal Competence Between Adolescents, Empathy, and Friendship Quality, a Dyadic Approach by Chong-Man Chow, Holly Roll, and Duan Burmester, they said, quote, developmental theorists suggest that the development of intimate friendships is accompanied by the maturation of adolescents' empathy and perspective-taking skills. Such propositions have led researchers to argue that empathy, or the ability to accurately perceive and experience the feelings and thoughts of others, is crucial to the maintenance of well-adjusted friendships. Individuals high in empathy are able to overcome egocentric viewpoints and experience the feelings and thoughts of others. These characteristics are thought to produce more satisfying and less conflicted relationships. End quote. So empathy is very important in all kinds of relationships, because it takes you out of your own emotions and really stepping into another person's shoes and caring about how they are feeling, if they're feeling angry, sadness, stress, fear, any kind of emotion. And I think empathy would have definitely helped in this scenario, because when someone else was getting upset, the other was angry, and it was just kind of like a clash of emotions, and no one was stepping into each other's shoes and thinking, hey, like, what I'm saying could really upset them, and I need to experience what they are feeling, and vice versa. And I think if everyone just understood each other's thoughts and empathized with each other's thoughts and feelings, we would have been able to get our messages across way calmer and way more effectively while also actively listening. And then my last two pieces of advice would be to recognize how important intimacy is in relationships, because being intimate can mean you have more open communication and more trust and self-disclosing like how you feel and your trust, and it'll lead to better reactions in conflict or less conflict at all. And also, understanding emotional boundaries is very, very important, understanding your own and other people's. I think you have to understand when someone else is way quicker to be more sensitive, to get angry, to get more angry quicker than you, sad at certain things, or like very physically emotional. You have to respect that everyone is different and they have boundaries of like things that you can say that can like set them off really quick. And I think it's also important to recognize your own and to express those to the people that you are in conflict with, and vice versa. By doing all these things, you can really just avoid conflict, but if conflict does arise, it can be a more effective, calmer, and smoother process than how mine was. And I think if we did all of those things that I mentioned, everything would have gone smoother. Everyone would have felt heard. Everyone would have felt comfortable sharing their own emotions, and felt that everyone was like really caring about how the other person felt. So to summarize everything, I mentioned my advice would be to actively listen and not just hear the message, but really interpret it and break it down and process it and think before you speak. Secondly would be recognizing the importance of empathy and stepping into another person's thoughts, feelings, and emotions, and just understanding how another person's feeling and not just yourself, and vice versa. And recognizing how important trust and intimacy is for open communication and being able to express your feelings comfortably, and respecting emotional boundaries and recognizing your own, how important they are in conflict with others or with anyone else. So my call to action would be to follow all of these steps. And if I did all of these things and we did all of these things in our conflict, everything would have been smoother. It would have ended way quicker. I feel like no feelings really would have been hurt. Everyone would have been heard and felt respected. So that is the advice I would give to anyone in that scenario or a situation similar to that scenario. So thank you.